Shalom, and giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakak Badash, and double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching this truth that's gone all around the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect out there. It's your brother Atazwan from the Great Millstone here in St. Louis. And we're going to do a lesson today, but my portion of the lesson will be short. As I was sitting back thinking about what I wanted to go into today, I ran across a video. You know, sometimes you get ideas from other brothers by watching their videos. And I found a video from the brother's handle is GMS Dedication. And I believe the video title is America, the Hammer of the Earth. And it's a very intriguing video that the brother put up. Okay, it's a video that we'll watch. I'm going to add it. All right, right behind these few scriptures that I pulled. Okay, very insightful. Okay, for those who are really trying to understand what's going on in the earth today. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of variable parts as we get closer and closer to the end of this thing, to the MOTB. All right, but the video, I'm not going to spoil it. I want those who watch this, you know, to really listen and learn. Okay, it covers a lot, but it tells you about the deceitfulness, the wickedness, the lying, the bloodshed. All right, that we as prophets and teachers have been telling you all about. All right, and they think that we're making it up. All right, but it's already in the scriptures. The prophecies are living, and this is something that you can learn from, and you can go back and research it all on your own, okay, if you feel the need to do so, which I encourage. I encourage those out there who may watch this video to go back and see if it's not true, okay? You have a wicked, wicked set of people who are ruling on the earth. So without further ado, I'm going to read these few scriptures, and the video will follow this, all right? So this is Genesis 27 and 40, and it reads, "And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob, because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob." Numbers 35, 35 and 33. "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Defile not therefore the land which ye shall inhabit, wherein I dwell. For I, the Lord, Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, dwell among the children of Israel." And as you watch this video, you'll see why I pull these specific scriptures. All right. The video in and of itself is going to go into talking about other people's different types of land. But you have to remember that the Israelites are scattered within these other nations. Okay. So though it may be talking about different lands in and of itself, you have to remember that we as Israelites are scattered all across the earth. So the bloodshed, the tyranny, and so forth has gone out all over the earth by this wicked man, Esau Edom, so-called white man. Okay, and you got these devils ruling in their new administration here in Babylon the Great, who are planning to put hell on you Israelites out there. Okay, keep it in mind as you watch the video. Habakkuk 2 and verse 12. "Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness, right? Basically, to play a trick on you, to get you high, to get you drunk off of their lies and their promises, right? So they can expose you and really get to what they really want out of you. Always trying to pass off a bill, a right, or act, right? Thinking that it will be beneficial to you and your people to be under their rule and authority while they take your natural resources. Verse 16, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Revelation 13 and 9. If any man hath an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And this is what we're waiting on, our Lord to come and redeem us and fight this battle and destroy this man. All right? So with that, I'm going to end this portion of the lesson. All right? The video is following this. Listen and learn. Shalom.
The conqueror writes history. They came, they conquered, and they wrote. Now you don't expect people who came to invade us to write the truth about us. They will always write negative things about us. And they have to do that because they have to justify their invasion in all the countries. It's like saying, when the Europeans went to America, there were no Indians there. It's ridiculous because they were there. I know that my people were there. We don't write our history. It has always been handed down to us orally by our elders. Of course, the white man came and he writes history. In fact, you don't know anything about any place until the white man gets there.
Blind with the wickedness deep in your heart. Modern day wickedness is all you've been taught. Lie to your neighbors so you get ahead. Modern day trickery is all you've been fed. Motives and thoughts. Check your motives and thoughts.
You're the last people in the world to tell anyone else on earth about logic, reason, and sense. Your Western, so-called Enlightenment civilization is a monstrosity in human history. Or you've committed genocide after genocide, and you're committing one right now in Gaza. Your logical, rational, reasonable European powers obliterated the Native Americans. You systematically dehumanized and enslaved Africans for centuries. You carried out population extermination in Namibia, in Congo, in Algeria, and on your own continent, the Gypsies, the Muslims in Bosnia, on and on. You can't talk about rationality and reason. You must be joking. You can only say that if you live inside of your own Western propaganda echo chamber. It's an absurd thing. It's just as absurd as calling yourselves democracies. You created societies that sacralize wealth, that sanctify the rich, giving them near holy authority. You didn't abandon the papal tyranny. You just shifted it into the morality-free private sector. It makes sense to you, in your enlightened logic and reason, that sick people in your societies, for example, can suffer and die if they're poor, and that every human interaction and every human endeavor should be monetized in order for it to have any value, and whatever can be monetized should therefore be socially acceptable and respectable, no matter how deranged and perverse it is.
work many different ways, but perhaps the most common is that we will identify a third world country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sisters. However, the money never goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our own corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, highways, industrial parks, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, as well as our own corporations, but do not help the majority of the people at all. And yet they, the whole country, is left holding a huge debt. And it's such a huge debt they can't possibly repay it. So at some point the economic hitmen go back and say, you owe us a lot of money, you can't repay your debts, so give us a pound of flesh. When I failed to bring them around, to get them to accept these loans, to get them to put their countries into servitude, then I knew that standing right behind me were what we call the jackals. And these are people who overthrow governments or assassinate their leaders. And both Jaime Roldos of Ecuador and Omar Torrijos of Panama were assassinated by CIA-sponsored jackals because I failed to corrupt them.
What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars. Africa has to earn the US dollars. The only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank, the International Bank, IBRD, is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the third world should only grow export crops. In order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can do what America tried to do to China in the 60s. We can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you. So owing their foreign debt in dollars means that they have to somehow sell something that the United States wants, not what they want. I think the most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
This is not America, this is Polynesia. Our country was stolen. That's one of your problems. You're ignorant, woefully ignorant. But you, caller, need to learn about Hawaiian history and about where you are. And that attitude that you have is the same attitude that Joey Carter has. You think you are in America. You are not in America. You are in a colony that is in Polynesia that was forcibly taken, just as, I might add, all of Eastern Europe was forcibly taken by the Soviet Union, which Americans think is a very, very bad place. The bad, bad Soviet Union. Well, the bad, bad United States of America took Puerto Rico, it took Alaska, it stole Indian land, it took Hawaii, it took Guam, it took Micronesia, Palau, and you had better learn that history because you are the recipient of an imperialist tradition.
The same people who have the audacity to tell us that we are poor countries. They are taking trillions out of Africa every year. And what is the African doing? Like an obedient, programmed black man, we just give in. And then one might say, why is it that African leaders haven't done anything about this deplorable situation? Well, let me tell you, my brother and sister, they have tried. Documented to this day, 22 coups where leaders were assassinated. The first 7, when they decided they were pulling out of the CFA and that they're going to print their own money, they were assassinated. Every time an African leader has tried to do what's best for their country, they were assassinated. Majority of them aided by France, who felt that when there was a natural resource discovered in one country, they wanted to create a coup. So while the country is thrown into a civil war, they're siphoning the natural resource.
What this man says about the Federal Reserve will shock you.
We have the power to make money. What we have done is we have deferred this to the banks, i.e. one bank, the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank has no reserves. It's not a bank. It is a fraudulent corporation operating in this country, owned by the Rothschilds and the Windsors and the Rockefellers, and they are the only ones benefiting from us using and paying with cash. When you were born, you were issued one of these. This is a birth certificate. It should be called a death certificate. How you pay is with promissory notes, $1.05, negotiable instruments, not with cash. We have to stop using Federal Reserve notes or Reserve Bank notes. They are owned by criminals, i.e. the Windsors, a criminal family, and the Rothschilds, another criminal family.
Greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. The Pentagon actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part of it to us, do they? Never mention that part of it.
There's something wrong in this country telling people it is okay to work 3 jobs, not see your kids, not see your loved ones, not take a vacation, and God forbid you get sick, okay? And I still got a job at home because I'm a mother. Because let's not forget, I don't get a day off. And I got to figure all that out. How are we going to eat? How are we going to pay rent? How are we going to pay the utility bills? That every single thing went up after COVID. Not one thing stayed the same. And neither party ever talks about what is really going on in this world. Because I'm not even going to say the country. What is really going on in this world? There is no scarcity. It is how do we pit people against each other so they're too distracted to see everything that I'm too addicted to consuming and how much profit I'm making, and more profit, how many more houses one individual can have, how many yachts can one individual have. And you're gonna arrest me now that I make a tent city? Yeah. So if I take the scraps from the trash and make some kind of shelter for me and my children, whatever. I am a human being first. With what conscience are you criminalizing poverty? Right. And it's not going to stop just in the United States. The poor of the world, not just this country, are fed up. And let's not leave out rural communities. I live in Haines City, Polk County, Florida, okay? But do you think that the poor in rural communities have transportation? They don't. There's absolutely not even a sidewalk to walk on because I am giving the message of stay poor, stay hidden, and die silently, okay? If I get a job, how do I get to that job?
The United States government is offering you a piece of land of your own.
We have our own land.
No, it's not yours. It's the U.S. government's.
Did they buy it?
No.
Did they trade for it?
No, it's not like that.
Then how can they own it?
He has a point.
We will give you everything you need if you will just submit to living on a reservation.
We need nothing from you.
You can depend on your country to take care of you.
You are not my country.
Mr. Durant, if we could just... Senator Crane has come here to offer your people a better way of life.
Better than what?
Better than what you have.
I like what I have.
Why don't you tell the United States to get over 9/11? Why don't you tell this country to get over all of the veterans who died in the Second World War instead of honoring them once a year? Why don't you tell your families to stop thinking about all of your ancestors who died? Why don't you turn down and burn down all of those headstones that you put up for all of your friends and relatives over the years? It's because it's important for us to remember. We learn from it. And until people show that they have learned from this, we will never forget. And we should never forget, even once they have learned from it, because this is a part of who we are. It's not just a part of who we are as survivors and children of survivors and relatives of survivors, but as part of who we are as a nation. And this nation must never forget what it once did to its most vulnerable people.
The world's terrorists are the United States. Look what we did to Iraq. Look what we did to Libya. Libya, the most successful country in all of Africa. The guy created the eighth wonder of the world with the way how he delivered water and turned deserts into farmland. And everybody had a house and everybody had education and healthcare. And we turned it into a failed state run by terrorists with open slave markets. Who did that? Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did that. And they'll never have to pay a price for that. Barack Obama, the most they'll do is go, that was a mistake.
Why did they get rid of Gaddafi?
Because he was going to start a currency of Africa just for that was going to compete with the U.S. dollar and the euro, and they can't have that because the way the United States controls the world is because the United States dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So that's why they can put sanctions on all these countries. And so what they're doing, which they shouldn't do, they're weaponizing the U.S. dollar. And so like when countries want to trade with each other, they have to go take their currency, change it into U.S. dollars so they can trade. And it was a lot of it was based on the petrodollar, which, by the way, Saudi Arabia just quit. They didn't renew it. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
So, and all of a sudden, CBS News is starting to do news stories about how Saudi Arabia was involved in 9/11. All of a sudden, 24 years later, all of a sudden, oh, you know what? Turns out there was something happening with it.
Now here's America, 226 years old. You love democracy, but there in Africa, you're trying to force these people into a system of government that you just have accepted. 30 years ago, black folk got the right to vote. You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth. When you have spilled the blood of human beings, has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb and killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet. Because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak. I will speak because I don't have that blood on my hand. Yes, there's corruption there. Yes, there's mismanagement of resources. Yes, there is abuse. There's abuse in every nation on earth, including this one. So let's not play holy to moralize on them. Let's help them.
I'm not moralizing. I'm asking a question, and I got an answer.
Why would you put it as the most corrupt regime in the world? That doesn't make sense.
Can you think of one more corrupt?
Yeah, I'm living in one. I'm living in one. Yes, you've done a hell of a thing on this earth, so you should not be the one to talk. You should be quiet when it comes to moral condemnation.